Whoa, it's the Illusion reporting from somewhere on spaceship Earth. Trying to get this camera not shaky in the car, but what are you gonna do, dude? Making a car video. Anyway, dude, it's Martin Luther King Day. Does that mean anything to you? It should. It absolutely should. You know, Martin Luther King and Bob Marley are probably two of the most influential voices in my reality. I got turned on to Bob Marley when I was young. And then I got turned on to Martin Luther King probably in college, man. And I used to roll around with a giant book of Martin Luther King speeches I'd read all the time. And Martin Luther King's words have made a profound impact upon my life. And so here we are, 2017, man. And I was starting my day listening to some Martin Luther King speeches on my iPhone. You know, I used to, there was a whole period where every Martin Luther King Day I would go hang out with this friend of mine, JP, and her and I would listen to we would watch this Martin Luther King documentary. It was sort of a thing we did every year. I've always been very attached to Martin Luther King Day, especially because I was living in Arizona when there was all the trouble with Martin Luther King Day. But that's another story, dude. I should tell that story next. But getting to today, right now, you know, I keep Martin Luther King. You can download them onto your iPhone, right? I put them in when I got my music in the mix, right? Just on random shuffle. The Martin Luther King speeches will come up in rotation, right? And every time I begin to hear it, I'm like, because you know, you're listening to music and you're like, I'm gonna listen to a speech, dude, right? And there's always a moment of hesitation, and then I'm like, all right, it's Martin Luther King. Let the speech play. And it doesn't take more than a minute before I'm listening to the words of Martin Luther King, and I'm overwhelmed by the beauty and the truth of his words. And I get why in 2017, the voice of Martin Luther King has been quieted by our society. Because he talks about God. He talks about love. He talks about overcoming the evils of our society. If you listen to the speeches of Martin Luther King, he is quite aware of what is going on in our society, even to this day. I think he would be surprised how we've absolutely kind of gone backwards on a level. And a big theme that you get in his speeches is, me dumbing it down, is two wrongs don't make a right. That the way out of the segregation is not more racism of a different form. And I get it, man. It's, yeah, you can get on the thing. Is hate for the sake of hate equals more hate. Like, someone's got to break the chain of pain, man. And how do we break the chain of pain? I mean, how do we break the chain of pain, dude? First of all, we got to love ourselves. We have to love ourselves enough to admit that we're flawed and that we don't have all the answers, that it is God that does have the answers. And God's made it very clear how to solve the problem. And it's through dignity. It's through dignity of oneself, because once you love yourself, you would never need to inflict violence upon another human being. See, Martin Luther King is preaching and activating a largely black audience. But at the same time, he knows that he's talking to the future and to white audiences at the time. And he knows that that dignity and love of self is the only way we can cross this bridge of segregation, because segregation can't occur in a state of love, because segregation is based upon fear. Racial disharmony is based upon fear. And there's no need to have fear if you have God. And yeah, today's Martin Luther King Day, but every day should be Martin Luther King Day. We should always have Martin Luther King at our disposal to play it. I've watched what goes on with these riots the last couple years. I watched what went on with this election. Where were people championing the words of Martin Luther King? Why is the words of Martin Luther King been forgotten? Because he speaks the truth. He doesn't have his head in the sand. He isn't saying that everything's perfect. But the one thing that he's really clear on is that two wrongs don't make a right. That I was just listening to his love speech, and he's very clear talking about that black supremacy is just as bad as white supremacy, any kind of supremacy. Anytime you as a human being think you're supreme over another human being, you've missed the boat, dude. You're living in the divide. We're all part of the creation. Yeah, and our creation's got madness right now. We need the words of Martin Luther King now more than we've ever needed the words of Martin Luther King, man. I was listening to his speech just now. It gets tears in my eyes because he speaks the truth, man. He understands the problem. He knows what it is. It's about a high tide lifts all boats. That the rising, loving black population can show the white population how to live. That's the thing, man. That it's a chance for everybody to show everybody else how to do it, dude. And yet somehow that thing's been turned into hatred, dude. I see it now with the election. No, those of you guys who claim that the boogeyman's in the White House, he might be. It's your opportunity to show the world how to love, how to lift all the boats, man. It's not a time to dig in your heels to hatred. It's not a time for war and burning things down. It's a time to show that you have the ability to heal your fellow man. The most powerful thing you can do, if I listen to the words of Martin Luther King, is heal with love, is to heal the wounds and the hatred of your fellow man with your love. It's so profound what he says, man, when you listen to him. And it's the thing of when you study Martin Luther King, when you look into his life, you realize he is a flawed man. He is just a man. But don't confuse the messenger with the message. That is why he's such a beautiful man. Yeah, he had problems, dude. He was not a perfect human being. And I think that's part of the thing we must recognize with Martin Luther King is he wasn't a perfect human being. He was just a man. But he understood he had a connection with God. And he preached the words of God. That's why they don't let Martin Luther King's message out anymore, because we're living in a godless society. And I'm not one to say that you need to go dude, that's not my trip, man. You need to figure it out for yourself. But all I know and all I've learned on my life journey is without a spiritual component in your life, you're lost, man. Without some sort of beacon of light guiding you towards love, guiding you away from the darkness of hatred and fear, you're lost, man. And that's where our society is right now. That's why they remove God from everything, man. Is because they want us in the dark. They want us living in fear. They want us living in segregation. Can't people see that the segregation is all about the labeling. The labeling. Everybody's got to wear a label. No, stop wearing a label. The only label you need to wear is love, man. Where are our new Martin Luther Kings? Where are our God-inspired orators bringing the message of God? Let love ring true, man. So, on this thing, to wrap this up, I just advise that if you want to do something to elevate your spirits, when you need to most, when you don't understand the information you're receiving from the society as a whole, download a bunch of Martin Luther King speeches, man. What? Spend $10 on your Apple's iTunes account. Upload some Martin Luther King speeches onto your phone and just listen to them. When you see the burning and the flames and the insanity of this, the J20 and blah, 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 listen to Martin Luther King. He has the answers. He's had the answers. We've had the answers since he first started speaking, and here we are, man, like we're clueless, dude. Why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the wheel? Anyway, this is The Illusion. Thinking about Martin Luther King today.